Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of the USA Hockey Officiating Program Zoomcast. This is episode 12, where we're going to be covering covering linesman positioning. Basically the mechanics, the positioning of linesman duties, particularly in the 3 official system and 4 official system. For those who are dedicated watchers, you know we did an episode exclusive to the 2 official system, where 2 officials working as referees work hand in hand together as they cover the ice. And then just last week, Scott Zelkin, in addition to Andrew Wilk and Melissa Scola, hosted a really good episode regarding referee positioning, where they covered the 3 and 4 official system and referees and their duties. So today we're going to actually do the linesman, and we're going to cover a lot of fundamentals, basic nuts and bolts kind of stuff, where to stand. We got a really wide array of participants with this one. We have level 1 officials who are brand new. We also have officials that are well experienced. So some of it's going to be very basic stuff that you may be pretty familiar with. But going back and revisiting those fundamentals is never a bad thing, because ultimately, when it boils down, if we're running into trouble out there on the ice, be it mentally or physically or whatever, it's always those fundamentals that we fall back on. So revisiting those is never a bad thing. So. For those of you who don't know me, I am BJ Ringrose, the manager of the Officiating Education Program at USA Hockey, coming at you from Colorado Springs, the winter wonderland. For those that don't pay attention to the weather nationally, less than 24 hours off of Labor Day, we are actually getting snow. So 91 degrees and sunny yesterday, we're actually getting snow today. So, but we'll deal with it, and it's going to back to normal weather probably in about the next 4 or 5 days. Joining with me tonight is a great panel of highly experienced linesmen from all levels of the game, starting with Jackie Spresser. Jackie Spresser comes from the Denver, Colorado, so she's experienced a little bit of this winter weather as well. Jackie's come up through the USA Hockey program, still works games locally in the grassroots level, but at the same time, most notably, she has worked and put her time in as an IIHF linesman, working 2 events, the under 18 women's as well as the senior women's. In both events, she actually worked the bronze medal game in both of those. And the keynote thing to point out there is you work the bronze medal games. In the women's events, usually you almost always work the bronze medal games. That's the one you want to achieve if you're an American official, because Team USA is almost always competing for the gold medal in those, and you're ineligible to work those. So to get the bronze medal in both of those is a really good achievement for her. She was scheduled to work the 2020 Women's World Championships last year, but that was unfortunately canceled due to COVID. So we'll see where that hopefully goes, and we look forward to her getting a top-level assignment again this year as we go into the 2021 IIHF events. Also with us is Patrick Richardson. Patrick Richardson is from the Grand Rapids, Michigan area, originally from New York, but living out there in Michigan now. He works the American Hockey League as well as the ECHL, works multiple Kelly Cup finals in the ECHL, and most notably there with his pro experience is in 2018-19, at the end of that season, he was selected to win the Ryan Birmingham Award, which is an award that is actually awarded on the league on behalf of the officials. So it's not the league that ultimately selects that award, who that award goes to. It's actually picked by your peers. So the fact he was selected by his peers to win that award says a lot about his professionalism and credibility and his teamwork attitude out there as he goes to work every single day. And then lastly, Ryan Daisy. Ryan Daisy joins us from the Boston, Massachusetts area. He is an NHL linesman, our first NHL officiating guest, so we certainly welcome here on the Zoomcast. We're really happy to have him. And Ryan, this is you just came off your 5th year, or you're entering your 5th year?
On the National Hockey League, just finished my 3rd season full time. So been with the league 4 years now, and just finished my 3rd season.
Okay. Basically, he's a proud example of our USA Hockey development program. With the summer camps, he came through all those programs, and then as well as had a little bit work in the officiating development program as well, and then worked his way up through all the professional ranks, worked his tail off in the American League and the ECHL, and it all paid off, as Ryan pointed out, about 4 to 5 years ago when he was ultimately hired by the National Hockey League, and he's having a very successful run with that. Worked playoffs last year, not working playoffs this year due to basically doing a little bit of surgery and just a little bit of personal body maintenance and all that, which we all have to. We all get older. We have to maintain our body. So certainly no worries there. But also all these three panelists that we have here, they also give back as instructors to the USA Hockey program. So not only do they put their time in within the leagues they work, but they also give back at various summer programs. And a perfect example is this here with the Zoomcast. So on that note, I just want to point out a little bit of logistics with the Zoomcast. For those of you who are joining us, you can join and ask questions. The participants, you can ask questions using that Q&A button within your menu screen there. Any questions that you have that come up as we cover all of our topics and everything that we present to you, feel free to use that. Feel free to submit those questions, and we'll do our best to answer every single one of those Q&As as they come rolling in. That's pretty much it. So with that, we will move into the different topic presentations. We're actually going to pass it over. Actually, no, excuse me. As you know, most of you that do the Zoomcast, we actually start everything off with a poll. So we're going to do a poll real quick. I'm going to present it out to you. We got 3 polls lined up, and this is the very, very first one. So for those of you who are here with us in the Zoomcast through Zoom, you can see 2 questions, quick poll. It should be really, really easy for you to respond. Question number 1, true or false, the linesman should never enter the end zone during play. And question number 2, how far outside the blue line in the neutral zone should the linesman stand? And it'll give you about 30 seconds or so to respond to those questions. Should be pretty easy and straightforward. Okay, pencils down, and we'll share those results with you. True or false, linesmen should never enter the end zone during play. Most of you, almost all of you said false. A few of you did say true. Jackie's should be covering that here with her first topic presentation, where she covers the positioning of linesmen during play. As well as our second question, how far outside the blue line should the linesman stand in the neutral zone? The majority, about half of you said 1 foot, and the rest of you were kind of split amongst 3 feet, 6 inches, or 3 inches, and we will cover that during the next 10 minutes here. So with that, I will pass it over to Jackie to cover linesman positioning during play.
All right. I want to touch on, at least for all positions, either ref or linesman, but proper positioning is obviously fundamental to us making the appropriate calls during the game. It lets us see as much as possible, best sight lines, but also keeps us in the safest positions that we can be in, and out of the way of play as much as we can be. As linesmen, if we stick to proper positioning, there's also an expectation of players for where we will be. So with that said, I want to start with play after an opening face-off. So BJ, if you could pull up the neutral zone.
Neutral zone?
Yes, please. So we will have decided prior to the game starting, or at the start of the game, you're communicating with your partner which half of the ice is going to be the half that you start at. From your half, you're primarily responsible for the blue line calls there and for face-offs within your own zone. But we're going to line up basically outside of, sorry, I got to turn on my annotation there. Outside of the blue lines here and here. And that's putting us in the best position possible for a play after the puck drop to come one direction or another, where we will then have to make the first line call of the game. Once we, or I'm sorry, where we're going to line up, I drew that wrong because I didn't realize there was a home bench and a visitor bench. So excuse me on that one. We're going to line up in front of the visitor bench. So that'll just be opposite. So we'll actually have this guy over here and this one I'll move over here. It just kind of gives us the appearance that we're not giving any sort of advantage or favoritism to the home team. But once that puck is dropped and play moves one direction or another, we're certainly going to be ready for that initial play. Which will bring me into positioning for play itself. Once play enters an end zone, the front guy is going to be the one who's closest to play. So if play is in this zone here, the front official is going to be the one who is standing here, and the back official is going to be somewhere a little bit farther back from the end of where the puck is being played. As far as the front official goes, who's here, per USA Hockey manuals, you're going to be about 3 feet, one direction or another of the blue line at all times. We're not straddling the line at any times where you have 1 foot on either side, but you want to be close enough to put yourself in the best position possible to make the most appropriate line call. And your focus as this front official here is going to be on potential line calls at your line there. The back official needs to be prepared primarily for 2 things. This official here needs to be in a position where they have the ability not only to help you as the front linesman in the event that you need it, they have to be able to get there and get there quickly and effectively, so they can't be too far back. They can't be too far back here, but they also need to be prepared for movement coming out of the zone that's going to be traveling this way, where they in turn would then have to make the line call at this blue line here. So typically I would say that the back linesman wants to be, if the front one's here, back one wants to be about halfway. We all see on television and in your higher level pro leagues that a lot of them will get significantly closer. And I think that that is based off of training and experience, skating ability, but for just the fundamentals, we need to be in a position where we can cover our partners, but also get back to our blue line when play starts to make a transition. So I'd say somewhere about halfway between the blue line down here and the red line is where we're going to want to be. That gives us the ability to cover both functions. And as far as the boards are concerned, when play is on this side of the ice over here, we're going to, as the front linesman, so maybe if we go to an end zone, BJ, that might be easier for me to show this.
Okay.
Has that showed up?
Yep.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So if play is, let's say down here in this corner over here, as the official, the front official here, we don't necessarily need to be sucked up against these boards because realistically, this puck's going to travel out this way, and there's a play at the blue line right over here. So if we stand a little bit farther out, not necessarily all the way out towards the dots, but just a little bit closer, we can sell this call that's going to be made at this side of the blue line right here. It creates a presence for you as the front official, and it's just a lot easier to say that you had the best view of that call at that time because you were just that much closer. Now, if we're this official right here and play is starting to come up this way, we're going to remain there. We're not going to step out here, entering into an area that can be quite dangerous for us, not only from a positional standpoint where we could get hurt, but we could also impact play significantly. And it certainly takes us out of the way of having the best ability to make the most appropriate call there. So same thing, if we could go back to the neutral zone, please. So we need to be aware of our spatial relation as far as the boards are concerned, reference play, but we're also needing to be aware of our spatial awareness from our partner. So the back guy, we need to make sure we're an appropriate distance away from our partner, and also from the blue line. As the front guy, and especially with new officials, when play's in this zone here and you're the front guy and play starts to come towards you, it's kind of a habit that I think is human nature. You tend to want to back up and you want to distance yourself from the play, but that's absolutely something that we're trying to avoid, because when you start to make this backwards movement, your partner who's here might think that you're leaving and come up, or they might think that they need to hurry and get back here, and it just creates a whole world of communication problems. So if you're the front guy, this is your line right here until play has left this zone, short of needing assistance, which your partner will obviously come down and cover. How we get there, if play is traveling from this zone down into this, or from this direction down here into the end zone, we were here because we have our front linesman and our back linesman. And then as play starts to travel this direction, this guy's skating backwards, ideally. We want backwards skating because it helps us keep the best field of vision that we can possibly have in order to then make the call here for this blue line. And then this official will move down here and be the back guy, which kind of brings me into the next portion that I think is important to cover for positioning during play, which is working the blue line, as I call it, or using the determining edge appropriately. So if you pull up the blue line diagram, please. So if play is coming from this direction here into this zone, so this is the neutral zone here, and we have the end zone here, and play's traveling this direction. You're skating backwards as this official, and then you need to be on this side of the blue line before the puck enters the zone. What we call the determining edge is basically the farthest edge that a puck needs to cross in order to enter a new zone. So the farthest edge that the puck would need to cross before entering this zone is going to be this edge right here. So as an official, we want to be on this side of the determining edge before play enters into that zone. Same thing when play is exiting a zone and coming out this way, we would be standing here on this side of the line. This is the determining edge that the puck has to cross in order to exit this zone. So that's what we're referencing when we talk about determining edge. So regardless of whether the puck's in the neutral zone and coming into an end zone or the other way, that's where we're working the line here, where we're going back and forth and making sure that we are in a position to have the most appropriate and advantageous view of that play. We want to be there before the play crosses the line. As far as, skating backwards, that's what is recommended because that's what's best for keeping your line of sight as open as possible. However, the blue line is the priority. Having the blue line covered and having a play viewed by a linesman in that position is really what's important. So if we get caught in some manner and we have to skate forwards in order to make sure that we're there for that line call, then by all means turn around and skate forward because the priority is going to be making the correct call of the blue line. Can you go back to the neutral zone, please? When we're working the line, as we called it, so play, let's say, is going from this direction and headed this way. Got an official who's skating backwards, and they're going to make the call here, and then they're going to come back out and reposition here after they've made the call. If you have to blow play down because it was offsides, then we obviously have a whistle and we're going to have to reset and have a face-off. But if it's not an offsides play, that's where I'm talking about coming back here and we're resetting here. And you're just then taking up your spot here on the line as the front official because play's down here. And then we have the back official here who's waiting to either cover you or waiting for a transition back out of the zone. So if play were to start to transition this way, this official is skating backwards and they're going to make their play from this side of the determining edge. And this player, or I'm sorry, this official is going to come up here and take up their spot right there. I want to talk a little bit about the back official. So we have a front official here, we have a back official here, and play is in this zone right here. as officials, we need to be responsible for all 10 players on the ice at all times. And we need to know where everybody's at, and we need to have eyes on all of these players. It's not that we need to be staring and intensely focused, but we do need to have an awareness of where they're at. So this front linesman right here is more focused on the play that's taking place in this zone. This back official here needs to be aware of players who are changing on the fly and going to this bench, or even to this bench here, just because plays or players are making movements that are behind this official's view right here. So your back official is responsible for kind of just keeping track of trailing players and being aware of their movements and what it is that, you know, it is going on the ice. In the first and the third periods, this is a lot easier to accomplish than it would be in the second period. For the reason being, so we have a home bench here and we have a visitor bench here. So during periods 1 and 3, the home bench is trying to score down here. That changes in the second period because our teams, our goalies have switched ends. So during the second period, our home bench is now trying to score down here. So when you have a front official and a back official here, so your home team's trying to score here, you have a front official and a back official here. We can have, you know, long passes coming out this way that could potentially go to a player who has recently come off the bench here. And if this back official isn't aware of that, we are going to have this player pick up the puck, come down here and try to score, and we're going to have a naked blue line right here, which is kind of a nightmare for a linesman. So if we have a front official and a back official, and we have players who are making changes here, it's the responsibility of this back official to be aware. You don't necessarily have to move down here and constantly be in front of them, but we need to be aware of where they are in the event that we need to move quickly in order to get this blue line covered. Another, you know, important part for the back official. So we have a front official here, a back official here, and plays in this zone. As soon as play leaves this zone and starts to travel out, this now becomes the back official. And if there are, let's say there's a turnover right here at center ice and play starts to come back this direction, this guy needs to be ready. So the focus of this official right here, of this official as play starts to come this way, needs to at least do a visual sweep of this zone, if not kind of a physical sweep of a movement coming in here, and just making sure that all attacking players are at least accounted for and are leaving the zone. You don't necessarily need to come in deep and follow them out, but again, awareness of where they're at and what they're doing is important. And the last thing that I would like to touch on is what we call the 8-second drill. This might be best depicted on the full screen. If you could bring that up, please. So the 8-second drill is something that we very frequently do, but it's not necessarily something that's documented in USA Hockey manuals and rule books. So I do think it's important that this is something that's communicated, and especially at lower levels with new officials, make sure that your partners are aware of this before we just go ahead and try to do the 8-second drill. But what that 8-second drill is about is when there's around 8 seconds left in any period of the game, that is a time where we really want to make sure that we're not missing important plays at the net. So if there is a play on the net right here, or play is in this end zone, we would have front linesman here, back linesman here. Now when there's about 8 seconds left on the clock, your referee is obviously down here on the goal line. We want to get 2 sets of eyes on this net right here. We obviously aren't wanting to miss goals at any point in the game, but when the time restrictions start to come down, it's just that much more important that we make sure we have 2 sets of eyes on this net. So basically, if your referee is on this side and your front linesman's here and your back linesman's here, when it gets to be about that time, this guy's going to start coming in and is going to be a second set of eyes here with your referee on this net for plays that could result in a goal. Same thing if your referee is here, but this happens to be your front linesman and this is your back linesman, this will change. The 8-second drill doesn't change, the concept doesn't change, but we don't want this guy to come in because now we have 2 people down here on the same side of the net, which doesn't really do us any good for getting the most appropriate field of vision. So what we would want to do is if we have a ref here, and this is the front guy, and this is the back guy is going to be the one that comes in and covers this. In this situation, that's great because this guy's got the blue line here. But if we go with the first situation where your ref's there, front guy's here, and back guy is here, and your front linesman comes in, then this back linesman needs to step up here and needs to be aware, because we're going to communicate this with one another both before the game and on the ice. Before we do this, we both should be aware of the clock time, so this shouldn't be too difficult to communicate, but this guy needs to step up here and make sure that the line is covered there. So that is a brief overview of positioning during play. Are there any questions before we move on?
Thanks, Jackie. Really good job of just outlining the basic mechanics and positioning of officials during play, the 2 linesmen during play. And it's a big topic to cover within the span of 10 to 15 minutes, of course. If you're looking for follow-up information, feel free to watch any of the online seminar modules within the online seminar module system, or the basic manual, or more importantly, the intermediate and advanced USA Hockey officiating manuals, which are of course available for download in PDF version at usahockey.com. That'll cover all that information. Just a couple of questions just to follow up on that great presentation. Just going back real quickly to the thing you pointed out with the 8-second drill. Obviously that back linesman is going to step up and cover that blue line. What else is that back linesman responsible for when the front linesman goes deep and helps out the referee?
They're responsible for calls that are made on the blue line. They're responsible for the clock. They're responsible for players still that could be coming from the benches. The 8 seconds comes down to, we're trying to score a goal in the last 8 seconds. It's a desperate position for players to be in. So we're going to have all kinds of crazy things there. And we have our referee down low and now a linesman down low that are there to watch the net. And when a puck goes in, we need to make sure that everything with the clock is being monitored by another linesman.
That's a great thing to break up. You can make or break a game as a linesman, being that back linesman during the 8-second drill, of being aware of the clock. And when that final horn goes off at the final mark of the game's over, just leaning on your whistle and having big presence and knowing exactly when that game breaks. And I can speak from personal experience being out there on the ice where it's a tough situation. Puck goes in, buzzer goes off, and there's questions when the puck went in, when the game ultimately ended, and that's where you can really, really step up and be a hero as a linesman to your 2 partners down there on the goal line and help them out big time. So, other thing worth pointing out is Jackie talked about moving in and out of the blue line, inside and outside the blue line, and she used the general guideline of 3 feet in, 3 feet out, which is a pretty good guideline. Strictly speaking, when it comes to being in the neutral zone and standing in the neutral zone outside the end zone, I'll throw this one actually at the Pat. Pretty simple question. Basically, when you're standing in the neutral zone, what is the absolute bare minimum that you want to stand outside the blue line in the neutral zone?
Bare minimum, a couple feet. I mean, you want to be so tight on that blue line, right? You just have to have the sight line, the correct sight line to make the correct call. But you don't want to be standing on the blue line, in my opinion.
And from a USA Hockey guideline, bare minimum of 3 inches, because ultimately the puck's 3 inches wide. The last thing we want to do is basically be less than 3 inches from that blue line, and God forbid the puck gets shot out, bounces off us, and goes back, and we end up keeping the puck inside that end zone. That being said, the guideline of a couple feet is not wrong. It's not a hard science. We don't expect anyone to pull out a ruler and basically measure exactly where their foot is in position to the blue line. You'll see all linesmen, some linesmen stand a little closer, some linesmen stand a little further back. Ultimately, as long as we have that good sight line on the blue line, that's the key important thing. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we don't stand on that blue line, or we don't want to get any closer than 3 inches because we don't want to keep that puck in. With that, we'll move on actually to our next topic, and we'll start again with a poll. So I'll launch our second poll. This is with regard to positioning of linesmen during the stoppages. Immediately after a whistle, what is the top priority of the linesman? And you have a few options here: positioning of the face, pointing to the face-off location, chasing and gathering the puck, checking the score clock, or awareness of players on the ice. And the second question, during a neutral zone face-off, at one of the 4 face-off dots, not the center ice dot, one of the normal neutral zone face-off dots, where does the linesman not dropping the puck stand? So we'll give you a couple seconds to record your answers and submit your polling answers before we pass this off to Mr. Richardson to cover his topic of positioning during stoppages. About half of you, give about another 5 seconds here. Okay. About 75% of our polling districts reporting. Question number 1. Really good response there. 94% of you said awareness of players on the ice is the immediate priority, top priority of the linesman after the whistle. Absolutely there, as Pat's definitely going to point out during his presentation. And then during the neutral zone face-off, at one of the 4 neutral zone face-off dots, where does the linesman not dropping the puck stand? 2/3 of you said in the end zone, and about 30 you said in the neutral zone. And Pat, I'm sure, will clarify that as well as he's going through presentation. So with that, I will pass it off to Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, BJ. So a couple things here. Hopefully I can get all this information in a quick 10 minutes. I want to thank you guys for joining the Zoom call. A lot of us could have other things to be doing right now. Shows your dedication and stuff like that. Thank you, BJ, for the opportunity. One thing that I've heard a couple times so far is awareness, right? As a linesman, icings and offsides, yes, that's our bread and butter. But half the time you can make a really good linesman if you're aware, and you can save your referee a lot of work and a lot of hassle if you know where to be, when to be, and at the right times. A lot of times, if you've seen me at a seminar, I'll absolutely talk about the fact that linesmen, icings and offsides is easy, right? It's where to be, who to watch, what players really getting crazy out there, which one, you know what I mean? And it's a feel for the game. And growing up and learning from BJ in seminars and another, the panelists, experience, right? You're going to learn this over time. You need to drill the fundamentals in, and as you grow older and start to go up through levels and junior levels in high school and minor pro in college, it becomes more important and more important. And so being able to stand in positioning during stoppages is more important than actually, like I said, the icings and the offsides. So the first topic I have is after the whistles, right? Throw the PPP, always players, puck, position. The clock's not going to start unless the referee or the linesman has the puck in their hand, right? And at the end of the day, get in the habit. As soon as that whistle goes, your head's on a swivel, 360 degrees. What's behind you, what's in front of you, what's on side of you, what's going on in the bench, right? Don't worry about shagging the puck. Too many times in my supervising, and I see a lot of kids blow the whistle at the blue line, and they have their head down and they're really hustling to get over to the puck, and that's a great job. Awesome. I love to see the hustle. But at the end of the day, you happen to not look over your shoulder and there's a minor scrum, right? Your partner sees it, obviously, but you forget about it. You race to the puck, you pick up the puck, and then all of a sudden you look back and realize, uh-oh, I need to be there, right? Leave your partner out to dry. Always get in the habit. Players first, puck second. You can always go and shag the puck, after you've got everybody to the bench and the referee's doing the line change. And then you can worry about the position. Now, a little tougher at the mite and squirt level, obviously, because those kids are really looking at you for where to go, right? The whistle goes and everyone's kind of looking at you. So if you're going to get the puck, those, the players will skate after you, right? That's one of those ones where it's just fundamentally get in the habit of when you blow the whistle, you're always looking at the players, looking at the benches. Now we're going to the puck, point to the position. If it's offsides, if it's icing, boom, we can grab it, right? Real simple, hard to do on a diagram. It's just the three P's: players, puck, position. Always remember that, and you can never go wrong. Offsides Mechanics, what I'll do is I'll try to share this. It's my first time ever doing this, so hopefully I don't screw this up. I'll go to the full rink diagram here. So Jackie did a good job, obviously. I'm trying to let, as linesmen, right? I don't really speak to the referees, but as linesmen, you got to really know where to stand, right? And inside and outside and working that blue line, basically I've earned a pretty good living on the blue line, right? And offsides mechanics, right? So obviously I'm going to throw a couple X's, right? And as plays coming up towards you here. So as we're coming up, basically what we're doing is obviously you're on the inside determining edge, right? Always want to be 3 feet. BJ said a couple inches. Never want to keep the puck from going into the zone, right? As you're coming up, this back official's trailing, busting his butt in case he needs to cover. This official right here is making the call. All of a sudden, that official makes the call. He's blowing the whistle. He's skating with the players towards the players as they cross the blue line. All of a sudden, blows the whistle, realizes everything's good. Hey, we're going to go to this dot right there. He points to the dot, starts skating over. All of a sudden, let's see if I can do this here. You've got your back partner, right? He's standing over here watching, whistle blows. Now the puck's in the corner. It's this official's responsibility down here to shag that puck. After the players, after he realizes, okay, there's no hot spots, everyone's kind of going their opposite ways to the bench. Now all of a sudden, he's going to hustle down, grab the puck. Linesman's going to come over here, stand on the dot. This official's going to shag the puck, boom, and go replace it and hand it off, and then come back and stand where he should, which now, obviously, if we're doing it vice versa, let me stamp here. All of a sudden, play's coming down here. Linesman standing here. Play's coming up this way, right? So I'm sitting here as the back official, right? Don't really need to cover for my partner. Slowly kind of coming down. This official's going to make the call. Obviously, it's offsides. It's this responsibility, this linesman, to blow the whistle, right? He's busting his hump to get over there. All of a sudden, the players are going to finish because they don't just stop. They're most likely going to end up down in the neutral zone or the offensive zone somewhere. He's going to bust over there, realize, okay, players are separating. I'm going to continue over to the dot because I made the offsides call. My partner then is going to go and try to shag the puck, pick up the puck, bring it over to me, come back, stand on the inside of the edge. Hopefully that was clear enough. Basically on offsides, what you want to do is, like BJ said earlier, USA Hockey, fundamentally 3 feet inside the zone. Never want to continue, never want to keep that puck from going in or out of the zone. Now, as you get older, as you continue to climb the ranks and you graduate from peewees to bantams to midget to AAA to junior, you're going to realize that at the end of the day, to get the right call is what you need to do. Don't care where you stand, how you do it. You guys watch TV, you watch the NHL. They do it their own way. They stand where they need to because they can answer to their bosses, right? And that's what's okay for them. In USA Hockey, we always want to live inside of that golden rectangle. We basically want to live inside that 3 feet, which is here, down here, and up there. You're going to live there as a linesman. Basically, when the determining edge and you're coming in, linesman's on the inside. Puck's on the inside in the offensive zone, you're coming out here. This, as BJ said earlier, sight lines, awareness. You need to be aware at all times where players are, pucks are, and your job at the end of the day is to make sure that you make that correct call. After you make the correct call, follow the correct mechanics, go to the right position, grab the puck, players, and you're down. Puck's down, clock's moving. Icing mechanics, a little easier to explain here. So what I'm going to do is throw a couple stamps. So if I'm the back official trailing, I'm the front official over here. And basically what we're doing is we're going to throw this arrow coming in this direction. I'm coming down, puck shot, let's say from about, I'll throw a heart out there for the puck. Puck shot from here, down this direction. We have icing. This official initiates the icing, throws his hands up, right? Ice, ice, ice. Continues to move, this is important, continues to move up as the puck's being fired down, continuing to the goal line to help his partner. This official, linesman 1, realizes over his shoulder that the puck's coming down to the goal line, continues, keeps looking over his shoulder. As soon as that puck completely, and the keyword's completely, crosses the goal line, he blows the whistle. Now this official's already coming up to kind of support in case he blows and waves off that icing. Therefore, this linesman's covering his partner's blue line, which is a little more advanced. You never want to get in the habit of initiating that icing and standing still, right? Always want to be supporting your partner. Next thing you know, it blows the whistle. This linesman, too many times when I'm supervising, I see the blow the whistle, head down, skate right to the puck, and then bust back to the other end zone. Get in the habit of when you blow that whistle to look over your shoulder. I don't care if you want to skate backwards, like Jackie said earlier, always facing the play. Make sure that when you blow that whistle, the first thing you're doing is looking over your shoulder to make sure probably about 8 players back here somewhere on the ice are behaving themselves. Too often do I see that whistle, like I said, head down, grab the puck, forget about the players, and remember the 3 Ps: players, puck, and then we can worry about the position. We all know it's going to the other end. Last thing you want to do is be leaving your partner out to dry who's coming over here for a scrum. You're down here shagging the puck, going around the net, and all of a sudden realize when you get over to this neutral zone or this end zone dot, you look over and, hey, you left your partner out to dry. It's something simple, but you get in the habit fundamentally always doing the same thing. You know, as you get older and you climb those ranks, it's just going to be muscle memory. It's just going to happen. It's going to be a habit. You're not going to have to think about it because it's muscle memory. Every time you do it at the squirt level and at the mite level and at the peewee level, you know, when you're sitting out there on a Friday night doing a high level junior game, you're just going to react because that's your muscle memory, right? You've trained your brain enough to do it. Fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. Where to stand when that offside's coming. The icing mechanics, right? One thing I do see sometimes when I see these guys, I wanted to mention this, and this is a little more advanced. When a linesman's picking up the puck, you know, basically down here in the end zone, guys, never, 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 never are you crossing in front of the crease when you're skating that puck back. Always pick that puck up, do a hard control turn and back, where you're always going around the net and coming around. You know, to be honest with you, I know that doesn't really fall into positioning, but it's something that as you get older, those goalies are crazy and they hate you. They don't want, you know, don't be in their slot, right? It's something stupid, something that can separate you and help you out a little bit. After goal mechanics, right? So Jackie, you know, touched on this earlier. Basically, you're going to have a visitor bench and a home bench, right? You always want to line up showing you know, you're impartial. I don't care. You line up in front of the visitor's bench. Who cares, right? That's what you have to do. After goal mechanics, right? The way I work it is happy bench, sad bench. So in this instance, we'll say that the home team scores, right? And this is the home team's end down here, okay? So basically, as a linesman here, you've got your supporting, you got your L1 and L2. All of a sudden, there's a goal down here. Now, to begin the game, this is my end zone down here, okay? It's always this linesman's responsibility. First players, grab the puck. This linesman who's L2 supporting, make sure you're in between the goalie, make sure you're in between the players, and you're escorting them team back to their bench. Now, that linesman, if there's a gathering of players, should escort all those players at a good distance, plop themselves right here. You want to be right here. Therefore, when the kids or girls come through up to celebrate, they have to peel off and kind of go this way. Last thing you want is a linesman standing out here, right there. All of a sudden, they score a goal. Players come in, they buzz right through you. They say something to the visitor's bench. All of a sudden, someone throws a stick. You guys don't think it happens? It happens. It happens a lot more often than you think. After goal mechanics, you know, linesmen, right? In a 3-man system, referees always dropping the puck. Home bench scored, always going to be standing happy bench, sad bench. Always with the team that score, you want to line up. The coach is going to give you fist pump. Hey, good job. Thanks for the goal. You never want to find yourself at the visitor's bench, right? A lot of upset individuals over there. Coach is probably pissed off at you, excuse my language. Players are probably yelling at you, chirping you. Always happy bench, sad bench. Get in the habit. Fundamentals. Always remember, ooh, the team that scored, I want to go line up in front of that team. They're probably going to try to give me a fist bump. Refrain from that, but have a little fun, right? It's always a good way to work your communication in there as well. You know, obviously, as the referee is going to be coming after a goal, standing here, we've got 2 linesmen. Home bench scores, happy bench, sad bench. As Jackie pointed on earlier, you're always inside the zone, inside the blue line with determining edge, so you don't get in front of that puck and keep it from entering the zone. Center eye face off, I mean, I basically touched on it right there. One thing I want to keep reiterating, though, as plays down in the end zone, as those linesmen, L1's sitting over here, and L2's sitting back here, as the goal scored, okay? We're going to throw a heart here, basically for a goal scored. if the players start to come over here to celebrate, just because it's this linesman's end zone and responsibility to get the puck. I know USA Hockey really likes to follow the rules and the mechanics. Guys, use common sense. If this linesman's closer and can prevent players from kind of, next to each other and prevent those players from getting close to the goalie or an opposing player, use common sense. This linesman can come down, buzz down, watch the players continue and escort them to the bench. And if vice versa, that one wants to shag the puck out of the net, so be it. Always players first. Always, always, always. You want to make sure that you're in position to prevent hot spots. That's one thing in my career, that I've become really good at. The offsides and icings I struggle with, right? We all do. But when that whistle, your awareness, anticipation can prevent your official from having to really do a lot of hard work. If you know where to be and you know who to get in between, it can prevent you from having to work really, really hard. You and your partner need to have constant communication, awareness, fluidity out there. You need to be moving, right? It's just the game. You need to be dancing out there and flowing with the game. But if your positioning during stoppages is spot on, you're probably going to realize, wow, these games are going really smooth. Versus a game that really gets out of control and the temperature starts to boil, it's probably because you weren't anticipating, you weren't aware, a scrum happened and ensued, and the next, there was retaliatory hit or vice versa. And if you're continuously trying to find yourself in those kind of games, you need to take a hard look in the mirror and go, okay, you know what can I be doing better to get in the middle of that, to prevent that? Because at the end of the day, sometimes, your referee can give you a little kick in the butt too, but it's all about players, puck, and awareness. And other than that, to be honest with you, it's nitty gritty, it's boring stuff, but if you really become good at it, you can have a really successful career as a linesman. So, BJ, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Great job. You covered gave a lot of really great information. Just to kind of jump on what Pat was talking about with common sense. I mean, obviously, USA Hockey, we have our fundamentals. They're there in the basic officiating manual and the intermediate and advanced officiating manual. And Pat talks about using common sense out there. Common sense comes out of, basically it's sense that you build off of experience and going through it and basically going to war and having those games types of experience. USA Hockey has to start somewhere with a level 1 official that's never done it before. So that's why we're so heavy-handed with basically drilling in those fundamentals, and you must follow this process after this call and follow this process after this particular call and this type of situation and all that. You got to start somewhere. But it's when you reach that point where you and your partner both have a good level of experience working high-level games or getting experience out there working games and dealing with tough situations. That's where you start to build those common sense situations, and you get to that point where, okay, I know USA Hockey specifically says this, but you know what? Something, my knowledge about the game, my hockey sense, something is telling me I need to do this instead. And when you get good at it, that's all of a sudden where you can start to make those little shortcuts and kind of go outside the normal box of basic mechanics and stuff like that. You can start to make those types of steps. But when you're a first-year official, it's all about building those fundamentals and building that foundation for yourself and getting those types of experiences and those tough situations and stuff like that. You got to go through that before you can start going outside that box.
BJ, not to interrupt, but as a level 1, when I'm doing might and squirts in my head as plays going on, I was always going 3 feet in. Okay, 3 feet in, looking down at my feet, and then the play. I mean, you guys are good enough skaters as officials at certain levels where you're going to be anticipating that play, and you're probably going to be there before the play happens, right? You're going to learn the timing aspect as you kind of progress. But at the end of the day, it's okay to say, okay, I need to 3 feet off there, 6 feet off the boards, 3 feet inside the blue line. I'm here. Think to that, because once you start to do that, it's muscle memory. And as you progress, it's just going to become a habit. You don't have to think about it. But really try to, hammer those habits in early. Therefore, you don't have to worry about it when you're doing a AAA high school game in Minnesota and you don't have time to think about that stuff.
Great. Thanks, Richie. From there, we will move on to our third topic. And we're going to start that again with a poll. We'll launch our third poll of the game. And this one is in regards to teamwork and working as a team out there as linesmen. First question, what is the common signal used by linesmen to signal they have taken their blue line from their partner? Do they give the thumbs up signal? Do they point across the ice to their partner? Or pointing the non-whistle hand down towards the ice at roughly a 45-degree angle back towards the center red line? And second question, true or false, each linesman will cover the same half of the ice using the center red line as the halfway point for the entire game. So we'll give you about 10 seconds or so to respond. A lot of you are already putting in your answers. About halfway home, we'll leave it open for about another 5 seconds or so. Okay, pencils down, share those results with you. Overwhelmingly, 90% of you said using the non-whistle hand pointing towards the, down towards 45-degree angle, pointing back towards the center red line is how you take your line back from your partner. With a fringe minority of you out there saying giving the thumbs up signal to your partner is how you take your blue line back. That would not be the normal USA Hockey protocol there. True or false, each linesman will cover the same half of the ice using the center red line as the halfway point for the entire game. Overwhelmingly, we've got our first 100%, I think, response ever in Zoomcast history. And after 11 and a half episodes, overwhelmingly, all of you said false. With that in mind, we will pass it on to Ryan Daisy, who's going to talk about teamwork. And I don't think you'll ever find a better team and a more cohesive team than the NHL officials and particularly the linesmen. So go ahead and take it away, Days.
All right, BJ. Well, first off, I just want to thank you and USA Hockey for having me on tonight with this panel along Jackie and Pat. And to every official who registered tonight and is on here, I just want to thank you guys, because without you being on and taking time out of your night, this Zoomcast would not be happening. Not much left for me to say after hearing Jackie and Pat, and they definitely hammered home the fundamentals. And the fundamentals that I learned 15, 18 years ago, level 1 seminar, then up through the ranks in high school and junior and minor pro, and all the way into the NHL now, I still use the same fundamentals. So, you know, like Pat said earlier, fundamentals never change. You know, you get into a very high intense game, could get confusing out there. You might not have in the best game, you know, of the season, and you just have to rely on the fundamentals, bring it back down to ground zero, and just know that, you know, if you study, you prepare, and you understand the fundamentals and make it a habit, you know, that will get you through the game no matter how much you struggle. So with that being said, I just want to talk about communication, teamwork a bit, mid-game end swap and during stoppages of play. So pretty much you guys got 100% right on the on staying in your own end zone for the entire game. So you're pretty much going to stop. You're going to switch end zones midway through the second period, typically after the 10-minute mark and a whistle. You're not going to switch during play. But if I'm working a game with Jackie for the first half of the game, she's going to have one half of the ice. I'm going to have the other half of the ice. So I will never drop a puck on her half of the ice, and she will never drop a puck on my half of the ice. You don't switch, especially during stoppages, okay? And like Pat hammered home, I hope you guys heard, because I definitely heard him, the 3 Ps. You know, the players, right, the puck, and then position. Never in a rush ever to get, you know, to get that puck and to get it down. We got to worry about the players first. And then during play, there are going to be times where there are going to be switches while play is going on. And making a switch with your partner, it is tough. So if puck is in the end zone and then coming up your boards and you're the L1 and you're right on the blue line, okay? Puck's coming up to you, L2 is on the other side. He or she is going to bump up and be there as a support role. If I don't feel comfortable and I feel like I'm going to get in the way, I have the option to hold my blue line, or I'm going to bump back into the neutral zone, and Jackie would bump up and now become that L1 partner. So once that switch is made, just remember this: you are never ever in a rush to switch back, okay? Especially during play. The safest time during play to switch back is when the puck is deep down in the end zone. So play could continue going on for another 2 minutes. Jackie, you know, is now L1. I'm L2. I'm in her end zone. She's in my end zone. Don't switch back until the puck is deep in the end zone. And you need to have verbal or nonverbal cues in communication with your partner. And when I say nonverbal, it is pointing to your partner when it's time to have your blue line back, or yelling across the ice, Jackie, I'm back, I'm covered. So we can't have both sets of linesmen looking at each other across the blue line, because who's going to be watching play behind the net when the high stick, you know, player gets high stick to the face, referee doesn't see it, and now we're no help. Okay, so you kind of have to feel your partner out a little bit, and nonverbal communication will definitely go a long ways. The back official recognizing when to step up to the partner's blue line. So this is it's not tricky, but you always need to keep your feet moving. Whether you're L1 or L2, never stay flat-footed. So what you want to do is you want to split the ice in half. So going from the center of the crease all the way down to the center ice dot, continuing down to the center ice crease at the very end. Each partner is going to have one half of the ice. So now if I'm working a game with Pat and the puck is on his half of the ice, typically where the player is going to be, they're going to be going up and down his half of the ice chasing the puck. So now on my half of the ice, I'm going to have less players. I'm going to have a lot more wide open ice to skate. So if play is moving towards Pat's line and he's going to have to make an onside, offside call and make a decision, but these players are skating with their heads down. They're just worried about the puck. Obviously, they're not worried about the linesman, Pat, standing on his blue line. I need to make sure I'm moving my feet and I am going up to support my partner. Now, going up to support your partner doesn't mean you're making the call, okay? But you have to do a great job at reading the play. And covering for your partner doesn't mean you're making the call on his or her line every single time. You need to understand that if Pat decides to go deep into the end zone, or he has the deer in the headlights look like, oh boy, they're coming at me fast, give them a half second to make a signal. And if they do not signal, then go ahead and make the call. But until no signal is made from your partner, just try to understand it's still your partner's line, okay, until they completely bail. You know, like I said, puck going up the wall, as soon as the player's head goes down, you got to realize your partner is going to have, you know, it's going to be a lot of traffic in front of him or her on their line. And that's when you need to get your feet moving and get up to potentially cover for your partner. It's just being there for support. Doesn't mean you have to make the call. But if the call needs to be made, don't be afraid to step up and make that call. And then we'll switch down to covering on the goal line for the referees. In a 3 official system, one to go deep versus one to stay put, because it happens. It's a fast game, long stretch pass, especially in a 3 official system. Rule of thumb for myself, doesn't happen, you know, anymore for me, but when I was working in 3 official system, is the referee was at least 1.5 to 2 zones behind play, only on an odd man rush. You know, a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2. Typically a 2-on-1, it's going to be a one-timer pass or shot, or, you know, pass across the slot. 3-on-2, the referee is hopefully, you know, working hard, hustling, moving his or her feet, getting down there to cover. Just you got to do a good job at judging. You don't need to go every single time. However, if there is a breakaway, every single time you need to go down and cover. And then once you're down, if there's a shot on net, if it hits the post, if it's close, there's no need to signal, okay? And as linesmen, we're down there for one job and one job only. And it's our priority is to see if the puck crosses the goal line or not. We're not there to call penalties. You know, we're linesmen, we're not the referees. If you want to be a referee and you want to make the penalty calls, if you want to be waving no goal on a no goal signal, okay, on a breakaway or a shot, then go ahead and become a referee. But as linesmen, we're there. The only thing we're looking at is determining if that puck completely crossed the goal line to be a good legal goal. However, while we're down there, we need to be observant of what infractions occurred and be an outlet for a referee, if need be. If that referee comes to you, if you have to discuss the play, if at the next media timeout, or if there's another situation, just be an outlet for that referee and just give as much detail as possible. Then we'll switch over to icing mechanics. You know, how and when to help a partner who has possibly missed the play happens every single game, more times than I would like it to happen to. Same thing with Jackie, same thing with Pat. However, the back linesman, as soon as you initiate icing, your job is not over. You initiate icing, and then you need to start immediately looking for tips and deflections. And if your partner calls an icing and it is a mistake, and you do see that it was tipped after your partner calls an icing, you need to be 100%. If you think it was tipped, let play go on. Icings, get the puck down and move on with play. However, you need to be 110% that was tipped or deflected. Never stay quiet, and always tell your partner, no matter who he or she is or how much experience they have, that you are 100% sure that that puck was tipped or deflected and it should not be an icing. Now, there's the right way to go about it and the wrong way to go about it. If I made a mistake and called icing and Pat comes screaming across the ice, waving his arms in the air, saying, hey, it was tipped, throwing the tipping signal, you know, you're going to be embarrassed a bit, okay? So be a bit modest. Understand that you don't have to show up your partner. you can easily skate up to them and say, hey, 100%, I have a tip. This is where the faceoff needs to go. Okay. And then the front linesman, you might have a better view of the play. If Jackie is dropping the puck in the end zone and she's trying to back out of the end zone into the neutral zone, but it's a high flip or it's a hard pass and goes by her and she's not able to see that puck, what I'm going to do as the front linesman is I'm going to start skating as hard as I can, and I might even throw my finger up in the air just a tad and try to make eye contact with Jackie and say, Jack, like, we got an icing here, we got a potential icing, and you just hope that the back linesman notices what you're doing. You're skating hard. You might, on the side of your pants, kind of throw a little signal, hey, throw your arm up for icing. Hopefully Jackie will catch on, and she'll throw her arm up immediately for icing. Okay. And this helps significantly because coaches and players are always going to be on that back linesman's case, right? So you're able to help out your back linesman, your partner. If you see a potential icing and they haven't seen it, they're going to look, oh no, what do I do? I'm deer in headlights. I can't make a decision. And you don't want to guess, so you don't want to wave. So as a front linesman, you would be the L2 at that point, you can really help out your partner, verbal communications and start yelling icing, but also start skating hard, start skating hard down and to make that icing call. And then, like, Pat and Jackie both said earlier, at the end of the day, all we want to do is get the call right, and we go out there as a team and we're only as good as our last call. Okay. As soon as we made a call 20 seconds ago, that call doesn't matter anymore. It's only work. We have to work as a team and look forward to how we can position ourselves and work as a team to make the next best call. Once you're out there, you have to respect your teammates and don't be afraid. If it's my first year, I still experience this being a younger official in the National Hockey League. Okay. I'm working with guys who have been in the league for 15, 20, 25 years. Okay. They're not perfect. They're not going to see everything. Nor am I perfect, nor am I going to see anything. But you're out there to help your partner, and you need to step up and tell your partner if there was a mistake made and you need to correct it, because that is what's right for the game. Just don't be afraid of hurting your partner's feelings. And if their feelings are hurt, guess what, guys? Like, that's on them to get over it. We're out there to do a job to get it right. Okay. You need to go into every game focusing on your team goal, which is to call a fair game and getting it right. Of course, you want to work on individual games during the game, but realize there's a bigger picture. And once you step on the ice, you're out there as a team and you're obligated to put together the best game possible. And then quickly, I just want to touch on, during altercations, open ice along the boards or on the ice, positioning to intervene in an altercation if it does happen, depending on what level you are skating. Make it simple. If two players are in an altercation, you want to be lining up on the opposite side of the partner. So we'll have team red and team blue. Okay. If Pat and I are working together, we both do not want to be standing side by side next to team red player. I want to be on team red. Pat's going to be behind team blue player. That way, when we're communicating back and forth, Pat and I are saying, I have red player, he has blue player. You're also communicating to the players in the altercation as soon as they hit the ice, or as soon as you find the safest time to get in there with your partner. Don't forget, your safety is just as important as those player safeties. You got to communicate with your partner. Pat, you ready? Yep. Now's the time to go in. You're going to go in, never go in from behind. And the reason why you never do this, I learned very quickly, probably my first year in the NHL. You go in from behind, those players don't know who's coming to touch them. Most times when we have scrums, there's going to be other teammates coming from behind, face washing, grabbing from behind, grabbing them around the net, okay? So you want to go in where those players in the altercation can see you and communicating with those players the whole time. Hey, it's the linesman. I'm in here. We're done. We're done. As Pat would be communicating with whoever he is, a team blue player, the same exact words. And once the players are separated, escorting them to the box, if they go into the penalty box or if they're escorted for the game and they're done and they're hitting the showers and going home, you need to make sure that these players are at least an arm length away from their opponent or anybody else on the other team, okay? Because we all know what happens. Other teammates will start chirping, start making comments. And if you let that player get close enough to an opponent on the other team, he's already or she's already hot and heated from the altercation they were just involved in. It won't turn out well, okay? And one little tidbit is if you are escorting a player off the ice, you don't need to physically take control and command of that player, okay? They were just in an altercation. The last thing they want to do is being manhandled by the official on the ice, you being the linesman. So a good little tidbit is maybe put your hand on the back of their pants, okay? And then that way you're escorting them. They can't feel that your hand is on the back of their pants. And now if they try to go off to go to an opponent on the other team, you can grab the back of their pants, hold on to them, and now you can physically intervene and use a little bit of force without showing up the player. So hope that helps out.
Thanks, Ryan. That was outstanding. Covered a lot of great information. It was all really, really well delivered. One thing I just wanted to jump on as we come up to the top of the hour here. One person made a point in the Q&A session. They talked about teamwork, particularly with teamwork and getting on the same page with your partner. And all of you have worked in many different leagues with multiple different partners. Sometimes you work with a person you're very, very familiar with, and you work with you're well experienced with. Sometimes you stare across the locker room. It's a person you never shared the ice with. What types of conversations can you have in the locker room that'll hopefully kind of get you guys on the same page? And I'll kind of throw that out to the three of you.
For me, I'm working with all kinds of people here in the United States, but primarily when I'm working IHF stuff, I'm not only dealing with people who I may have never met before, but they're from different countries and their primary language might not be English. And we're working out of a rule book that, is interpreted differently by somebody who's reading it, understanding English the way I do, and maybe somebody differently. So one thing that I have found helpful, and this is not only applicable to my international hockey, but I keep a notebook in my ref bag, and I have a list of things that I will bring up that I have known to be a problem either in the past, something that maybe I wished I had talked about prior to doing so, that I want to make sure I don't err on not communicating before a game. So for me, it's helpful to have a list, especially with a new partner, but I'll even still touch on that stuff when I have a partner that I've worked for before. But pre-game communication and conversation is so key in avoiding a lot of errors that don't need to take place on the ice. So as far as like what we've talked about today, the 8-second drill might not be something that lower level or newer officials are familiar with. So I don't want to make the assumption that that's something I can go out on the ice and that I can do if my partner's going to have no idea what's going on. I kind of talk about how I hold my line. Obviously it's dependent upon a situation, but I tend to stand very firm in my line. I make sure that they know that. I also communicate with my partner what I'm going to do or not do when I want assistance. I'll certainly touch on, any number of things that are on this list, but regardless of whether it's a local, Pee Wee Bantam level game or whether it's an IHF event, I think it's important to always cover those topics in the locker room and not to just make the assumption that everybody's on the same page.
Thanks, Jackie. Pat, Ryan?
First international tournament I worked, first game ever, first time in the rule book. I worked with a gentleman. My linesman partner couldn't speak a lick English. True story. You want to talk about nonverbal communication, those nuances you do, the way you skate, your demeanor. That came into hand. And my supervisor said it was an unbelievable job. We got through it. But to be honest with you, things a rink diagram, right? Sitting in your bag that you never thought you'd ever use, and realizing in the locker room before the game that you got a big task ahead of you, and you're trying to draw X's and O's like we just did, using nonverbal communication and nod heads and yeses and nos can be huge, right? Just make sure you know what you're getting yourself into before you go out there. If something seems uncertain and uncomfortable, talk about it. Make sure you're comfortable, because when it's not, you're not used to it, it's when it really get exposed. And you'd rather talk about it in the sanctuary of the locker room when it's private and that's your room, versus on the ice in front of 50 fans or 10,000 fans. And so the more you talk about it and communicate and get on the same page, as stupid as you think it might be, the better off you're going to be out there. Don't really know if that answered the question, but
Ryan, anything to add?
I would say at the at the younger levels, you're going to work with with officials you've never met before, and you're probably going to work quite a few games with officials you've never worked before. And I remember going in the locker room, you might be working with somebody that's been, it might be their 10th year, and they might be 15 years older than you are. Well, that doesn't matter. If that's your first time, introduce yourself, and just quickly talk. Hey, how do you like to work your line? If it's your first year, you say, hey, I'm newer. I appreciate. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to work my hardest. We're going to work as a team. And if you have any tidbits for me, or in between whistles or in between periods, let's talk about it. And then when you start moving up the ranks, when I first worked with Pat in the USHL, first game that we started working together, we started talking about a little more high level linesman protocol, how he likes to work his line, how I like to work my line, bumping off your line and support, and when to switch back, and all the way up to the NHL now. And we have a strict standard to enforce linesmen as far as hybrid icing, onside, offside, especially when it comes to faceoffs now. So we still have a pre-game meeting, pre-game discussion. So it never changes no matter what league you work in. Just get some sort of communication going on with your with your partner, whether it's your first game with them or your 100th game with them.
Thanks, Ryan. With that said, we have reached and breached the top of the hour, kind of gone into overtime, but so much good information being shared, I don't think there's any major crime with that. So we'll wrap things up now. Looking ahead to our future schedule, as you can see, we are covering linesman positioning and mechanics today. Next week, feel free to, by all means, register and join us again for emotional intelligence. Scott Zelkin's going to be in the captain's chair for that episode, and he's going to have a panelist of Don Adam, Jamie Huntley Park, and Sean Hayes. They're going to discuss emotional intelligence and de-escalation. It's one thing to cover X's and O's and positioning mechanics and all that kind of stuff, that hard science of going out there and actually working a game. But the subtleties and the softer science of going out there and working a game is basically being able to read the temperature of a game out there, realizing when everything's just kind of on cruise control, it's a smooth running game, nothing to be overly aware of or be heightened awareness to anything in particular going out there. And then all of a sudden being fine-tuned and dialed into the game to a point where when suddenly the emotions pick up, the intensity picks up, the pace of play picks up, picking up on those types of things. And at the same time, when a player comes over to you and wants to discuss something with you, is it a calm demeanor, quick question type of thing, or is he a little fired up, or is she a little fired up and emotional and angry about some particular thing in dealing with that type of situation, or going over to a bench and dealing with a coach behind the bench? Again, it might be a quick question type of thing, or it might be the coach is upset, the coach is angry, the coach has got some frustration that they want to vent, and being able to read that type of situation and manage that situation appropriately by de-escalating it. So it should be a really, really fascinating, interesting episode to tune in with. Going on beyond that, as you can see, on September 22nd, we have disabled hockey, where we'll talk about sled hockey as well as all the other disciplines of disabled hockey and all the opportunities that exist there, as well as aggressive infractions. That's on September 29th. And that's basically dealing with some of our more flagrant and injury potential type of infractions, and why it's so critical to get those calls and step up and make those calls when those calls need to be made. So that's what we have coming up. Quick social media reminder, for those of you on social media, Twitter and Instagram, feel free to go find us out there. The USA Hockey Officiating Program has channels on both of those platforms. Easy to find, easy to like, and easy to follow. There'll also be a survey that'll be launched once we wrap up here. Please feel free to fill out that survey and get your responses into us, particularly with when it asks about upcoming topics and what you'd like to see. That is your one opportunity as a member and a participant within Zoomcast to let us know what you'd like us to cover. And then all the other, the positives and the negatives that you saw over the course of this hour, we want that type of feedback so we can do what we can to make this the most positive and most best learning experience for you as the participant. On that, thank you to all of you, the participants. If this is your first time tuning in with us on the Zoomcast, welcome. We appreciate that you joined us, and hopefully you enjoyed it. For those of you who have been tuning in week in, week out, thank you so much for your dedication and support, and we hope that see you on future Zoomcasts coming up. Lastly, thank you to the panelists, Jackie Spresser, Pat Richardson, and Ryan Daisy. Thank you so much. USA Hockey is exceptionally proud of everything that you have accomplished and the levels that you have achieved coming off the USA Hockey springboard. And even more importantly, we're thankful that you guys always take those opportunities to give back, whether it be on something like this on a national scale or at the grassroots communities back where you live. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And now with that note, we'll wrap up. So on behalf of USA Hockey and the USA Hockey Officiating Program, I'm BJ Ringrose, and thank you and good night.